I was invited here to speak about our Developmental and Epileptic Encephalopathy Research Program, or the DEER program as we call it. It's based at the University of Melbourne, but certainly not confined to Melbourne. So we have many investigators, collaborators, and indeed participants and families from around Australia and across the world contributing to this program. It's off the back of a 30-year research program, the Genetic Basis of Epilepsy program, which was led by Professors Ingrid Scheffer and Sam Berkovic. And the DEER program is expanding on this. So some of you may already be one of the more than 16,000 participants who have helped this program over the years, or your children may be one of the more than 1,000 participants with DEEs who've already contributed to this research. So we thank those families. For the DEER program, we're setting this up, we have set it up to be a collaborative multi-site study that could be delivered at any epilepsy centre or hospital around Australia. So we currently have sites approved at the Royal Children's Hospital and the Austin Hospital in Melbourne, as well as the Sydney Children's Hospital Network. So that covers both Randwick and Westmead hospitals. And we've submitted an application to add sites at the Royal Hobart Hospital, Perth Children's Hospital, the Women's and Children's Hospital in Adelaide, the Alfred and Monash Hospitals in Melbourne, and hoping to add Queensland Children's Hospital very soon. So we're making our way around the country. What are we trying to achieve through the DEER program? We have quite a few goals. First of all, we want to find new genetic causes of DEEs to increase the number of families who, after genetic testing, can learn that this is the change in this gene that is the cause of my child's DEE. So at the moment, this happens for about half of families, a bit more than half in this room, but that leaves the other half without a known cause for their child's epilepsy. So we're hoping to boost that number. We also want to explain what the natural history looks like for each genetic DEE. So this is thinking about when and how do seizures begin and how do they evolve and change over time, or what does development and learning look like through the years, and how do the wide spectrum of different symptoms that children and adults with DEEs, how do these different symptoms begin and how do they change over time? So through our research, we know there are now more than 900 genes that cause DEEs. So we're effectively studying more than 900 different diseases. We have a really brilliant team of clinicians and scientists who are exploring the psychosocial impacts and the health economic impacts of DEEs. And we're working on developing national standards of care to guide treatment and care. So no matter where you live in Australia, you're getting the same standard of care. And all of this is laying the groundwork and pushing us forward as we prepare for more of those precision medicine trials that Chris mentioned earlier on. So this is a lot that we're trying to achieve, and we've assembled a large group to help drive these goals. So we've got experts from many different areas of science and medicine, as well as our committee of parents who are contributing to each goal and each phase as consumer advisors. So I'll focus tonight on the second goal that I mentioned, and that was to explain what the natural history of each genetic DEE looks like. So our DEE natural history study is aiming to understand the many different symptoms and features that children and adults with DEEs can experience. And we want to look at how and when each feature might start and how they might change through the years. So we're looking at seizures, of course, but also movement, sleep, development, behavior, mood, learning, feeding, growth, communication, vision, hormone, speech, and breathing impacts. So quite a lot. And we want to understand how these features develop and change over the lifetime of children and adults with DEEs. So thus capturing the natural history of these. And we're doing this by gathering data when neurologists see participants. We've also funded neuropsychologists to see and assess participants for developmental, learning, behaviour and mood changes. We've developed questionnaires to capture data about seizures, about movement, about sleep and development, and these other little bubbles around here on the page, as well as questionnaires that are supporting our psychosocial science and health economic goals. And these have questions about quality of life and the financial and other impacts associated with caring for children and adults with DEEs. And then lastly, at the bottom there with consent, we gather the medical records for each participant as well. And we hope families will be willing to do all of this when they sign up for the study and again annually at each year. We know this is asking a lot and we can be flexible about timing and how much families have capacity to do. We can tee things up so that everything happens on the same day as your usual appointments with, say, your neurologist. A lot of this can be completed online in your own time or on the phone with one of our team members. So we work with each family to figure out what's going to suit you best. So, what would we be asking you to do if you considered participating in our DEER program and the DEE Natural History Study? So, first of all, if you would consider providing us with a blood sample from your child and from yourselves, this would be extremely valuable for our genetic studies. Even if you already know the cause of your child's DEE, we still have more work to do to understand how other changes in people's DNA contribute to the spectrum of features, even beyond seizures, that children and adults with DEEs experience. If you would also consider signing a medical records release form, that way we can gather your child's records from their treating doctors and hospitals, and this helps us build that story of your child's history. I mentioned the questionnaires earlier, covering the medical history, developmental, seizure, and family history, as well as multimorbidities or these other conditions that can be associated with DEEs, and also quality of life and financial impacts. We've employed neuropsychologists in Melbourne and Sydney so far to see families. But if you've had a similar assessment done for school or for other doctors and would be willing to share the report with us, that would be really useful to show how development, learning, and behaviour is changing over time. We do have other assessments that you may be asked to consider, and this is things like vision and hearing tests or ambulatory EEG, activity monitoring with a little wrist monitor, or a heart tracing. These aren't relevant for everyone, but you can, of course, say no if we ask you about any of these. And then lastly, we would like our families to consider allowing us to access a 5-year period of your child's Medicare and pharmaceutical benefit schemes. And this data is really useful for our health economic studies. And so we as researchers know, and I am sure you as families in the rare disease space know, that working together is the strongest path to change. And so by sharing the data that we collect through the DEAR program with community organisations like SCN2A Australia and other genetic epilepsy groups, we hope that we can support these organisations in their applications for funding, in their submissions to government, and in their advocacy and lobbying work. We also work closely with other researchers, and we can share data that we've collected to increase the size of the groups that are being studied, or to implement a strategy or a tool that's perhaps being used by one group in one genetic DEE. We can broaden that and apply it to a broader range of participants with DEEs. So in both instances here, the identifiable information about your child, like their name, their date of birth, and their address, would be removed from the data before it's shared. And it would just be a specific set of data that's relevant to the research question that would be shared. But might be somewhere where something like the clinical research ID, this or CRID as it's known, can be useful. I don't know if any families have heard of this. It's a participant generated ID, so something that families create themselves, and then families can take it with them to any research project that they're involved with. And it provides a way for families and researchers to link the data that's been collected about their child across different studies. So it can help avoid duplication if, say, you've completed a similar assessment or a similar questionnaire for another study, but it also helps avoid duplicate reporting in papers if everyone is referring to the same participant using the same ID. So anyone can create a CRID for yourself or for your child at the following web address. And I think the details it needs are an email address, your child's first and last name, their gender, and their date of birth, and then it will generate a unique and a universal ID. So I guess to finish this little section, that we have an online portal that's live. If you are interested, I would very much like to invite you to head to this website using that QR code or geneticepilepsy.org. If you scroll to the bottom there's a little green button that says create a new account, and you can pop your details in there, and then a member of our team will get in touch with you. And it's from this platform, from this portal, that That becomes your online portal for the research program. You can add different people to your family. You can read and sign the consent forms through that portal. You can complete questionnaires, book appointments with our neuropsychologists, and get in touch with our team all through that portal.